gamers.
I don't see you! Prize is gone! Fan out! Fan out! No, no, no! Stick together! This is one clever fox!
He was one such man, one who had lost all, over and over, and to this, he had lost his sanity.
In 1979, George Miller's Mad Max introduced movie-going audiences to a post-apocalyptic anti-hero, the titular Mad Max, who went on to inspire generations of other morally ambiguous pop culture figures across multiple mediums of entertainment. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome hit theaters in 1985, marking the third entry in the wildly successful series. It unwittingly denoted the start of a decades-long drought, too, which wouldn't end until Mad Max Fury Road and Avalanche Studios' Mad Max released in May and September of 2015, respectively. Though the open-world Avalanche game bore minimal relation to the fourth Mad Max film, the two projects shared a tumultuous production history. However, confusion abounds with regards to when exactly their paths crossed and later diverged. The sprawling Mad Max adventure that players ultimately installed on their PC, PlayStation 4, or Xbox One was not what George Miller initially had in mind upon pursuing a video game adaptation several years prior. Still, Avalanche Studios managed to produce an experience that honored the director's seminal epics. The crew at Avalanche also carefully crafted a product that fans of its past open worlds could appreciate, even if they harbored little to no nostalgia for the blockbuster film franchise. Accomplishing as much proved an arduous task, although at the very least, the hard work went on to cement the licensed title as a cult classic worthy of its namesake. This is the history of Mad Max. George Miller reportedly had his heart set on developing a fourth Mad Max film by 1998. According to an interview Newsweek conducted with the filmmaker, production on what would become Fury Road originally boasted a 2003 shooting schedule. All parties involved put these plans on hold due to the start of the Iraq War. Oddly enough, Mad Max's return to the silver screen hit yet another snag when Miller decided to focus on collaborating with God of War 2 director Cory Barlog for Fury Road's would-be video game tie-in. Miller teased the project in the aforementioned Newsweek discussion, telling the publication in 2008 that Barlog's approach to storytelling, which mirrored his own filmmaking philosophies, intrigued him the most. The Mad Max creator wholeheartedly believed in gaming's untapped storytelling potential and likened the interactive medium to novels because of its ability to press pause on a narrative's forward momentum and explore other avenues in the periphery. He felt a Mad Max game could follow through on this in spades, and Cory Barlog seemed the best man for the job. Thus, Barlog exited God of War's Santa Monica studio in 2008 to work closely with Miller on the Fury Road tie-in. The duo's early efforts appeared to be progressing nicely as of October that year, evidenced by a blog post wherein Barlog said he and Miller had recently put the final touches on the Mad Max plot, mechanics, and game design structure. Barlog tempered expectations, however, noting that though they were in talks with publishers to secure a deal, such pursuits usually required a much longer time commitment than anticipated. Unfortunately, time has yet to demystify the ensuing events. Rumor and speculation once suggested Barlog brought the Mad Max project with him when he joined Stockholm, Sweden-based developer Avalanche Studios in 2010. Studio co-founder and CEO Christopher Sundberg debunked the theory in a 2013 Polygon interview in which he claimed Barlog did not work on Mad Max during his 2-year stint at Avalanche. Yet in a correction issued after Polygon published the piece, Avalanche's head of communications, Thomas Wyborg, labeled Sundberg's comments inaccurate. Unable to elaborate further, Wyborg clarified that Cory Barlog did indeed participate in the production of a Mad Max title while employed at the Swedish firm. Hints concerning the fate of the mystery game ended on that note, as no one familiar with the situation has ever detailed what happened to the fruits of Barlog's and Miller's creative partnership. Cory Barlog didn't count as the only big-name developer attached to a game adaptation of Fury Road. Before the God of War 2 director entered the picture, Interplay Entertainment, the original creator of Fallout and Baldur's Gate, nearly struck a deal of its own with George Miller. Interplay founder Brian Fargo told Kotaku he read an earlier version of Miller's Fury Road script, resulting in talks of the studio potentially developing a party-based RPG akin to Wasteland and Fallout. The film's various delays continuously stifled forward momentum, but Fargo claimed that Electronic Arts further complicated the situation upon offering Miller $20 million for the IP's gaming license, a proposal the director allegedly accepted. If the filmmaker did broker an agreement with the publisher, it yielded no results in terms of a finished product. As such, at least 2 separate video games directly related to Mad Max Fury Road never materialized past the nascent stages of conception. Perhaps the trick then rested in stripping the interactive adventure of all ties to its theatrical counterpart. Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment chose this route when inking a deal with Just Cause creator Avalanche Studios around 2011. Speaking with VentureBeat, Christopher Sundberg divulged that Avalanche previously had discussions with WB's gaming division about possibly partnering on multiple projects. But it was a call from the publisher's business development group about a Mad Max venture that provided the Swedish studio with the chance of a lifetime. One Sundberg and company gladly accepted, especially given the franchise's influence on Just Cause. And, interestingly enough, Warner Bros. Senior Vice President of Production and Development Peter Weiss said Avalanche's ability to craft uniquely chaotic worlds served as the motivating factor behind the offer. If anyone could bring Mad Max's barren but wildly unpredictable wasteland into an open-world setting, it was the Just Cause team. Warner Bros. Had zero interest in a Fury Road tie-in, however, preferring the studio to focus on developing an original tale. As noted by Weiss, the incredible commercial and critical success of Rocksteady's Batman Arkham titles proved that play the movie games simply didn't serve the end user. More often than not, movie tie-ins were constrained by unreasonable deadlines, then further held back creatively due to the unyielding demands of pre-established story and character arcs. Despite Avalanche building a world separate from the film universe, George Miller served in a consultant capacity throughout the game's pre-production phase. By all accounts, he imparted invaluable insight about the world of Mad Max, which the developers fully absorbed and put to good use while carving out their own narrative, a reimagining that specifically emphasized the role vehicles played in surviving the post-apocalyptic wasteland. Thus, Max's desire to build the ultimate car sat at the nexus of Avalanche's action-packed tale. It seemed a simple enough premise, yet forced the development crew to alter its approach to designing gameplay mechanics and the open-world environment. Lead-level designer Andreas Casuari remarked in a VG247 interview that verticality exemplified what made the Just Cause series inherently fun, thanks to the grappling hook and parachute mechanics. Because this level of verticality wouldn't befit a Mad Max game, car combat and vehicle upgrades took center stage, all while Avalanche maintained its sandbox formula that hinged on promoting player freedom. Given its status as the team's first true foray into the narrative-driven space, Mad Max could only support so much of the chaos most often associated with Just Cause's design structure. Sundberg told MCV Develop, the group shifted its creative development style and prioritized controlled, open-world experiences to accommodate Mad Max's main missions and more mature tone. Chaos within the general gameplay still reigned in some respects, necessitating a balance that ensured players could easily follow the story without feeling force-fed. By and large, Avalanche's vision for a sandbox Mad Max adventure demoed well during the reveal at Sony's E3 2013 press conference. Built in Avalanche Engine, the proprietary technology that powered Just Cause 2, Mad Max boasted a massive landscape that developers insisted would impress users across PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One platforms at release in 2014. Details concerning the cross-gen title's intricate car combat and upgrade system especially won over the masses, as did promises of an original plot far removed from the theatrical universe. Media members who saw behind-closed-doors footage of the title in action penned positive previews highlighting the potential, though a few journalists were openly skeptical about Max's conspicuous American accent. Fans of the long-running franchise didn't take the news well either, since the Mel Gibson starring property historically played an instrumental role in elevating Australian cinema. Thus, some consider the removal of Max's Aussie identity an affront to the brand. Avalanche head Christopher Sundberg acknowledged the backlash weeks after the unveiling in an announcement that confirmed the protagonist would indeed speak with an Aussie accent. The casting change ultimately brought Australian actor Bren Foster into the fold, a decision that players, Australian and not, greatly appreciated. Yet Foster's hiring didn't constitute the only notable shift. For better or for worse, the studio later revealed it went back to the drawing board for more than just a casting choice in the months following Mad Max's E3 2013 debut. Developers from Avalanche participated in several interviews throughout the remainder of 2013, teasing the title's open-world environments as well as its on-foot and vehicular combat mechanics. Talks and updates noticeably slowed down early in 2014, the year in which Warner Bros. Had both Mad Max and Fury Road penciled in for release. Yet upon deploying a new trailer in April, Warner Bros. Revealed the game's delay to a nebulous 2015 launch window. As evidenced by logos attached to the end of the brief video, the previously announced PS3 and Xbox 360 versions were still planned at the time. This changed at some point during what WB's Peter Weiss referred to as Mad Max's retooling. Noticeably absent from E3 2014, the project resurfaced in the spring of 2015 with a Game Informer cover and September due date for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One platforms. Avalanche elected to cease development on the PS3 and 360 builds to deliver a tailored experience with gorgeous vistas and vast landscapes. While the core tenets of the emergent gameplay and intense action hadn't changed during the development shift, Weiss said the production team at Avalanche put a lot more effort into the final product. The studio seemed proud of its work too, speaking confidently about the new characters, story, and Max's overarching mission of creating the best car in the wasteland, the Magnum Opus. Max's desire to silence the voices in his head and find a place of peace also drove the narrative, which Avalanche strengthened with an eclectic cast of characters created with George Miller's input and blessing. Chum Bucket acted as one such secondary figure, assuming the role of an obsessive mechanic who partnered with Max to build the Magnum Opus. The mechanic additionally represented the game's primary voice, commenting on the world and filling the silence left by Max's reserved nature. Main antagonist Scabrous Scrotus similarly colored the narrative with his insatiable lust for violence, as did the bloodthirsty and cancer-stricken Warboys, who featured prominently in Fury Road. The character design added more texture to Avalanche's Mad Max universe, particularly due to what principal writer Odd Algren called scarification and branding. Developers deliberately used these types of grotesque body adornments as opposed to tattoos, painting a picture that accentuated the wasteland's tribunal qualities. Some critics and players would argue that everything worked in tandem, from the stoic anti-hero and the curious supporting cast, to the vehicular combat and the barren, desolate environments encapsulating it all. Others seemed less convinced. Mad Max's critical reception ranged from mixed to positive, with the authentic recreation of George Miller's film universe receiving the bulk of the praise. The intense car combat and sheer amount of open-world content appealed to many a player as well. However, it launched only a handful of months after The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and Batman Arkham Knight, both licensed open-world titles that, to varying degrees, raised the bar in their respective genres. Mad Max fell short by comparison, burdened by tedium and a lack of much-needed connective tissue to hold together its array of promising individual parts. And the promise of what could have been, along with a few frustrating glitches, left many to wonder whether Mad Max suffered a shortened development cycle to satisfy Warner Bros.' presumed desire of launching the movie and game within a short window of one another. Hitting stores the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain didn't do Mad Max any favors either. Though official sales data never surfaced, loose estimates suggest the Avalanche adventure shifted a little less than 2 million units as of 2018. Consequently, this may serve among the list of cult classics that never receive a sequel. Avalanche's restructuring into 3 creative divisions also doesn't bode well for a Mad Max follow-up, given that none of the branches appear to have such an endeavor in the works. But hopefully, the wait for another interactive experience in the genre-defining series won't last as long as the 30-year film drought. Thank you for watching. We'd like to take this time to thank, by name, the generous patrons who have pledged to our Hall of Fame reward tier. Caleb Shishkevich, Fernando Lopez Ojeda, Maktoum Saeed Al Maktoum, Paul Cousineau, and those currently subscribed to our producer reward tier. Darirap Sigurdsson, EmuMovies.com, Lame Game Man, Milkshake, Schizo Lingvo. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to our channel and backing us on Patreon.